start.
There it is.
It will probably give you a little notification to tell you that you're being recorded. Stop picking your nose, or whatever it says. And so, okay, now we are ready to begin. So we have a purpose for today's map chat. And whilst I will let John explain the details, in a nutshell, John is part of an amazing organisation in the Gelatin and Mount Malloy area, and they have a little, like a tourist map of their community, and John made the previous version of this map and is looking to make a new version and tizzy it up, and is looking for feedback and input and comments and ideas. And so he's basically asked if we can have this map chat today to have a bit of a look at the map, feed in our thoughts and ideas and comments, and make any suggestions, and have a little bit of a talk about cartography and map production as a bit of a as a topic for today, but obviously with a view to use this real map example as a way to put into practice some cartographic principles. And Mundi has enlightened us that she is in fact a cartographer, which is really awesome to have someone with such a background in cartography with us for this session. And I have a 150 pages of workshop materials from a cartography workshop that was run in Cairns in 2013 that I stumbled across just the other day. I must have stumbled across it because we're doing this map chat. I can't think of any other reason why I possibly would have found this, except that we would need it today for something. And so I can share a little bit of some of the things from this workshop, and potentially I mean, I only have it in a hard copy, so I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to circulate 150 pages of a hard copy around, but maybe we can figure something out because there's good material in here. But I'm just going to hand straight over to John now, and he'll probably share his screen and pull up the map and talk us through it a little bit and tell us a little bit about what the map is for. And so we'll get to see the form of the map in its previous version, and we'll get to hear the function of the map from John. And those are the first two things in this document that I found, that maps are all about form and function. So let's go, John.
Thanks, Gary. That was a great introduction. I don't think I have much more to say, actually. No, I think what we have to do is, I'm suspecting that Rosamund's got a list as long as your arm that we are going to talk through. So what I would like to do is just get everybody else's like 2-sentence reaction to the map, as not necessarily as a cartographer or as a mapper, but as somebody who might want to visit the area. Did you find it intelligible? Was it overwhelming to look at? Was it cool to look at? You know, whatever tops, whatever your reaction is. And then maybe we dig into some of the details, possibly. That's all right. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Did you want it up on?
Yeah, I was going to say, if we throw it up on your screen or mine,
yeah,
but it's better if you do it, probably.
Okay. Host disabled participant screen.
I was going to say, do I need to give you permission? Where's the sharing permissions? Hang on. I just need to hit the little tick box. Give that a go.
Okay, we'll try again here. There we go. All right.
Hey.
Hey, how about that for technology? Everybody's good?
Yes,
all
indeed.
Right.
And if
cool.
you press Control L, it will fill your screen. because Control L is the shortcut for
Yes.
the DC viewer to make it full screen.
Yeah. Okay, terrific. Well, it looks like it's full on my side. I hope everybody else has got it. So,
Yeah.
why don't we go? Yeah, why don't we go around the list? Does anybody want to volunteer to lead off? And just feed their impressions back. I'll jot them down as well as we go. I'm not hearing somebody there.
Well, I guess for me, the biggest thing when I looked at the map, like I think the coolest icon on this map was point 127, which is the Mount Malay Labyrinth. It just sticks out to me like a sore thumb. And I think like I'm immediately drawn to that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. What is that? It's a labyrinth. Awesome. So I reckon maybe a few more icons of some of the, you know, the cool things to do would be cool. I mean, that's me personally when I'm a tourist and I'm looking for cool places to go to, I'm looking for, you know, I may be looking more at the graphics and the visualizing the map more so than I am the legend and looking up the numbers and what each number pertains to. So I guess if it's for tourism and if there are some cool things to do in this list in the legend, if there could be some little cartoon icons, images to accompany that just to draw the eye in straight away, I think that would be cool.
Right.
And I was thinking about like that Mount Lewis National Park. There's really, it's like one of the most biodiverse places, in Australia. Maybe we could, I don't know if it's possible, but maybe have a bit more of Mount Lewis National Park, or even just like that whole gelatin shelf sort of encompassing around the edge of the map that shows a bit more depth, how tall that mountain is, just like how pronounced that landscape is, I think is kind of slightly lost in the map. Yeah, there were like a couple of suggestions that I thought, and there's the just like the the lemurroid, the white lemurroid possum and cassowary, and just a couple of those iconic species that exist specifically in this part of the world. A couple little animals like that might not go astray if we could somehow put a photo in there or something, because people might see them if they're out and about near those mountains.
Good point. Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Desiree. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know how you would, like, whether you would do it using contours or maybe just like a digital elevation model. It's hard, right? Because you don't want it to look too busy. You don't want it to be covered in lineage or anything like that. But yeah, I think definitely just pronouncing that mountain range in some way would be pretty good.
Cool. Thank you. Good. Mel, what did you think?
Oh, it has me wanting to go on a little weekender with the family. So I guess you've got the right kind of target audience there. For one thing I did notice was scale. And I'm just not sure, is the map to scale, or is it, yeah, I'm kind of wondering if I was driving that area, having an idea of how long it's going to take me to get from these points. And I know a lot of these roads are probably dirt roads as well. So as a driving tourist, that might be important information to have on a map like this.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
the map isn't to scale. And I guess a little bit clearly and deliberately sort of not to scale.
Yeah, I imagine there's a good reason for that.
Well,
I guess you can see everything properly.
Yeah.
Because in the town, there's a lot of places close together. And then when you get out of town, the places are relatively far apart, and trying to represent that on a single map, unless you have some sort of an inset, but then insets become difficult too.
Yeah.
The only alternative, if you do want to actually make it to scale would be to use an inset map.
Which might be a good idea, you know, like because Port Douglas and Mosman Gorge, I know that's not the point of this map, but they are hot tourist destinations. And if people are staying in Port Douglas, they want to know that they can get to Gelatin very quickly, you know, even if, or that Gelatin is within, you know, an afternoon drive or something like that, or a lunch trip.
To realise that proximity, that you could perhaps stay in Gelatin rather than Port Douglas and visit those areas.
Yeah, I like the idea of an inset, and you could have like driving time with a buffer with a driving time or something associated, so you could actually really see. I'm thinking, I don't know whether this has it got to be a printed map? Because this day and age, it's all about digital technology and people like things on their phones. And so I just wondered, I'm just completely changing it here. Is it possible to have it as like an interactive map on your phone so that as you point onto things, they pop up with a photograph? Getting very complex here. But
sorry, that's all right, Rosamund. I've just come back. I hope you didn't miss me too much. And I missed the back end of what Mel was saying just after we got to gravel roads and scale. So I apologize about that. But I'm back now. Can I just dive in and answer your question real quick, Monday? The core of this whole enterprise is a thing called Story Tree, which is a database. And so it's got inside of it the capacity to be expressed in many different ways, including, as you suggest, having an interactive phone-based map. So that's definitely a possible project. It's not a funded project at the moment. It's not something anybody's volunteering to do at the moment. The one thing that we can do is produce a printed map. So that's what this particular conversation is about, is just how can we print the best printed map that we can. Yeah. Everything else is definitely a go, but it's not the immediate goal of this conversation.
No worries. Sorry, I'm perhaps missed that because yeah, that's okay.
No worries.
It's a great addition to the conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah. Terrific. And that's I should have mentioned that's where the numbering and all that stuff. The numbering is actually related to the IDs, the field IDs of the features that are in the data set. So like a number 127 here is also a number 127 on the website.
Yeah.
So it's all linked that way.
So phase 2 might be an interactive map.
Correct.
Yeah, it'd be additional to a printed map, not necessarily instead of. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people still like the printed map.
Well, it's still a valuable resource. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's reception like in that part of the world?
Variable.
In the Malay area, yeah, that's right. In Malay, it's actually quite good.
Yes.
Vodafone struggles a little bit on either side. Everything struggles a little bit on the sides outside of that. But Gelatin is pretty very variable. So that is one of the issues about why we didn't immediately jump to an app-based solution was because of coverage issues. And plus, you know, there's a lot of people just want to hold on to paper, and it's, you know, like no mucking around with security, app downloading, whose device or anything. It just, here's a piece of paper that's got the map on it. So there's some value to that.
For sure.
I do like the idea, and just making sure that, John, you got this down, of having like the driving times. So, you know, where you've got at the edges of the map, you know, at the end of this road, you've got Daintree, Mosman, Port Douglas, you know, indicating that it's, you know, 20 minutes down the road, not 2 hours.
Great idea.
Makes it much clearer for people to get that. I mean, the map's not to scale, but you need to give people that perspective. And whilst this is really great for showing the local area, you do want to have that regional context, or, you know, at least some broader context, so that people know, how long is it to drive to Mareeba? How long is it to drive to Port Douglas? How, you know, so that they can just put 2 and 2 together, you know?
Yep. No, it's a great catch, Mel. Thank you for that. Terrific. Anybody else want to pop up before we get to Rosamund's list?
No, I haven't even had a chance to look at the map properly, so I'm looking at a tiny little phone.
Oh, right. That's not going to be any fun. Oh, all right.
Okay.
All right. Neil, what did you think? Any comments off the top of your head? And by the way, you're hogging the wine down at your end of the table. Would you mind just passing it down to the rest of us?
Oh, it's got a bit low. No, I hope there's no plans to change the stylized drawings. I think they're very good, very charming sort of effect.
Okay, all right.
I would have to agree.
The story behind that is we had a lovely woman who did a Mount Malay only map about 15 years ago, and those drawings are from her map. But of course, I needed a lot more buildings than what she had, so I scanned them in and clipped them out, and I'm using them as icons. So that's why the orientation is often a bit weird. The perspective is weird because they were drawn in one perspective for her map, but then I did the best I could.
Oh, it's still a nice visual effect, absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the point that was it Desiree made about the hills and mountains and ranges in the national parks in particular, one of the more effective ways to give that impression on a map like this is probably something like a hill shade. So rather than contour lines, which probably aren't going to give you the effect that you want, something like a hill shade to just make the map pop out a bit, to show, to give that visual impression of relief, is potentially more the sort of tool that would help you with that.
Yeah, I like that. Those are both good. It's good to show, it's good conceptually to show some depth, and it's good to stay away from more lines and go to shading. Great.
Well, yeah, just a hill shade, I mean, you'll need to be a bit picky. It's not like you want the whole map hill shaded for relief.
No.
But for some of those, particularly Mount Lewis as that example, just to show that there is real relief there, we'll add an element to the map that just makes it pop a little bit more.
Yeah.
Desiree, I might have to come. Sorry, go ahead, Mel.
I was just thinking you'd probably have to get fairly creative with doing hill shading on a map that's not to scale.
That's exactly right. I was going to come back to Desiree and say that's maybe her job there is to propose a map shading for the shape that I've got.
Now that's the catch.
Yeah, that's the catch. That's right.
Someone who's quite good at sketching, maybe.
Yeah.
Is there scope to potentially zoom out a little bit on your map, just so that you can get the idea that whole drive, from Mount Malay to Gelatin follows this really nice mountain range. I'm just thinking, I guess it's kind of here in the map. Just somehow to try and get that hill shade in there, but the scale could be problematic unless we can draw it.
Well, the places where you have opportunity is we've got the three main creeks that arise. So that would obviously be a drainage line. So there you have an opportunity to bring something down, and that'll help emphasize, this must be related to elevation. If people can see how the shading works in relation to the water, then that gives them a clue perhaps. But no, the scale, zooming in and out, of course, is all possible, but it's all a balancing act between zooming out and then you lose the ability to see the detail of those four little houses in the middle of Main Street because they get all packed together. If you zoom in, of course, you lose the opportunity to see the overall landscape look. So it's just a balance.
I'm wondering, what about if, I'm just looking at the area actually just on, I've got Google Maps open next to me here. If the map had a portrait orientation, so the road, you sort of just flipped it on a portrait, and the road down from Gelatin to Mount Malay, the mountain range might fit a little neater in a portrait as opposed to landscape, and then the road down to Mariba would actually be going down.
Yep.
Mariba?
Yep. Yep,
as opposed
that's
to
right.
where at the moment it looks like it's going west to Mariba.
Yeah, I don't know. That may work. It might. That might. So the main orientation is actually Rifle Creek heading east to west. That's
Yeah.
one of the big ones, you know.
Yeah.
And then we have this big legend that needs to be read somehow. So we have to figure out, does the legend then come to 2 long columns, or that? So whichever way it goes, we've got to also position the legend in there somehow. I mean, not the legend, the key. You know, the big key thing.
Yeah, the place key.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sort of looking at it from a more of a minimalist change kind of model, where, I mean, I kind of like the map as it is. I think it's, you know, in terms of the purpose and trying to give people an idea of what's around and, you know, where they need to go. And the biggest thing for me was with all of the road names, making sure that they're really clear about, you know, which road's which, and making sure that the name is quite clear and legible. That enables for good navigation. I mean, the roads are relatively well signposted in this particular part of our region, and so once you get to the road and you see the sign, you can relate that to this map directly to know sort of where you are in the world. Obviously, there's the bridges and over the waterways and stuff as well, because they're also signed. In terms of the mountains, I just had another thought. But you know, because you are not to scale, and you might think, oh, how on earth do we create a hillshade? You could look at some sort of mountain icon as well. You might. I know in some of the novels that the kids have got with the mountainous area, there's just a whole lot of little, you know, hats that show, oh, this area is mountainous. You know, you could look at some sort of a mountainous, you know, mountain icon or something iconic, and put little mountain icons across the map where the hilly bits are. Or you could have a little hill icon for the little hills and a big mountain icon for the mountains, or just something to give that that impression that's actually just a simple icon. So you're not looking at some sort of complicated hillshade anymore.
Or even just cross-hatching, yeah, some sort of texture. Yeah.
I think you want, yeah, like a little, you know, the hat symbol, just an upwards arrow, 2 lines, you know, indicating, oh, there's a mountain here. You know, it could just be something fairly simple and symbolic like that, and you group them around where the mountains are to show where the different areas are. I mean, you could just note the major peaks or something, but I mean, again, you're just wanting to give a little bit more context to the map. But it's an idea that is probably easier to implement than hillshade if we're trying to keep it simple for you, John.
All right.
I must admit, I really like the map, but I think Desiree's comment about having photographs would really modernise it and make it pop. And you know, you're talking about putting symbols to show that it's mountainous. You could just have one photograph there with a zoom out that shows you the view from the top or something.
Yeah.
Show you that it is mountainous and that you've got a fabulous view from here.
Yeah.
A picture speaks 1,000 words.
Do you think photographs would work at that scale, Wendy? Is there, like, if I tried to imagine where would a photograph go just on the current layout, say in between, in this, is my cursor visible? I'm not sure, but there's a white space there. Like if we put one photograph there, that's a lot of visual eye drawing to a photograph, right? And would you be able to tell much from a photograph that size?
And you wouldn't be able to have 120 or 130 photographs for each site. You know, you wouldn't be able to fit one for each.
No, yeah, you could have just one representative up on the, because I'm not sure about the title being there. So if you're
Okay.
moving the title, then maybe you've got a little bit more space to, you know, to have a zoom out box with a one decent photograph of the area
Okay.
that sums up the area.
Right. Right.
That's just a thought.
I mean, there are a few little bits of white space here and there where you could have a little sort of thumbnail image, and depending on the image, it could be effective.
Yeah, look, it's something to keep in mind.
But you wouldn't want too
other-
many, as you say. You
Oh no,
wouldn't want
No.
not
lots.
too many. One or two at the most.
The other side of the PDF, let me see if I can get that up here for you, has a history, and it has the advertising, and it has the, like here, you can kind of see it. So we do get a picture of Mount Lewis over there.
We can only see the. Oh, there it is. It's all right. It just took a moment.
Is it there now?
Yeah, it's there now.
Yep. So you can see there's a picture of Mount Lewis over there, and we've got a little bit of. We could drop photos in here, but you know it's pretty. The text is already very pared back, so to drop photos in here, I would have to pare back even further.
Yeah.
Now, this is the printed version of the map, and you can see we've got photos running around the outside edge that kind of correlate to those same areas, right?
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
the pub
Yeah.
and out the water.
Yeah, that
Right.
gives a
There's
bit
the
more
old-
visual.
There's the old sawmill.
That's-
Sawmill. That's the old post office. That's the
Yeah.
old train station. So yeah, there's a little bit of visual interest. So it's not just a map.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was thinking would be good. So you've
Cool.
already
All
done
right.
it.
Good. We're on the
Yeah.
same track then.
There you go. That's beautiful.
All right. Now, what do you think about? Yeah, I have to say it was really hard to try to, because we're not in a mapping program here. This is all done in a vector editing program. So it's like
Yes, for sure.
Adobe Illustrator.
Illustrator,
like that,
yeah.
But it's not Illustrator, but it's like Illustrator.
Yeah.
Inkscape. So
Oh,
the
yeah,
free
yeah.
version. Yeah. I found it really hard to get text on a line to work well. So it was just technically quite challenging. And so all these road names are painstakingly kind of put in one by one, and it's really, really a pain in the neck. And I'm not sure I like the effect. I don't think the road names actually work terribly well, but maybe I'm being overcritical. What's the efficiency, do you think, on the road naming?
I'd like to see a little bit more, a bit of improvement on some of the labeling for the roads.
What would we do?
I always like labels to follow the actual road, so they might be at the side rather than all horizontal.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing that would improve the road labeling, is to just be angling them along the actual road features a bit better.
And maybe the creek labels could be a navy blue, so that like they don't get confused with the road. I mean, I know they follow the creeks nicely,
So
but
roads are black and road labels are black. Rivers are blue. River labels are also blue.
And
yeah.
labels for rivers usually italic as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that, Mundy. Good. All right. Typeface and font size, reasonably okay. Does it perform well enough?
I think the creek size could come down in font.
Yeah,
River.
agree with that.
Okay. All right.
But again, having all of the names actually following the features.
Yeah.
Yeah. The creeks are a little bit better, but there's a couple that would probably just need to change a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Mitchell River at the top left would definitely just be small following
it's
the
the
river.
standout. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bushy Creek could be oriented slightly better too.
Yeah. It got problematic there, of course, because it crashes into roads and features.
Well, if you're making it slightly smaller, it'll be slightly easier to position it.
Yeah.
So you're killing two birds with one stone by making the river labels slightly smaller. You're also going to make them slightly easier to place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the road labels and things are the biggest problem, because otherwise the little sketches and everything are just lovely.
It is a nice map. So yeah, whilst we're coming up with all sorts of ideas and suggestions, you know, we're starting with a pretty good product. It's not like we're starting with a trash heap that really needs to be shifted around, if you know what I mean.
You've got little
cool,
icons for the lovely little you know, houses and things. So up on the mountains, you could have little sketchy, little hand-drawn ringtail possums and things, little animals up in the mountains.
Yeah, nice to go. Well, we've got the birds, which somebody thought was they thought it was a sideways cow. Like a cow. They kept reading it sideways. Why do you have these cows on here? I said, what cows are you talking about?
Really?
When you start trying to think about how to indicate or signify birds, it's interesting to try to get a symbol that is just bird-like. I found it kind of challenging.
The little blue wren is a really good iconic symbol.
Little blue wren.
Yeah, with the little up pointing tail.
Well, like a bird.
Yeah, like a little fairy wren, like a fairy.
Yeah,
wren.
fairy wren.
A bird that's really special to that area that doesn't really occur anywhere else is the parrotfinch, the little blue-faced finch. If I wonder if we could get a little icon.
What's he look like though? Like iconically, you know, like its silhouette. Is it distinguishable enough to look like a bird? They often just turn into blobs, Desiree.
Right.
What's that term that bird watchers use? A little brown bird. You know, it's like a little brown blob. It's like
LBG.
That's it. Okay, well that'd be great to see an alternative icon for the bird watching spots, because this is a hot spot for bird watchers. So it'd be really good to have.
It is.
Pop out nicely.
Yep.
I think that icon's underperforming myself.
Yep.
What about the table of features? That looks to my eye really kind of clunky, but I can tell you again how hard it was to produce that. That's actually coming out of Excel. Some of you with a sharp eye could note that I'm using a combination of a special circular font to do the numbering, and then another set of icons and fonts to do the symbols on the side. I couldn't think of a better way to do it while maintaining connection with the database. So from the database, I get a straight text output as a CSV file. So now I've got a CSV file. What am I going to do with it? So I've dumped it into Excel and then formatted it, and that's what we've got. And I'm not particularly happy with it, but do anybody have better ideas? Can you read it okay? Does it work, say, from an information point of view, informatics point of view?
What is sorry, I'm just I'm looking on the right small column of each of the columns. What are those? They're like little crosses and little brown squares.
Look at the legend. It tells you.
Oh yeah, derp. There it is.
Yeah, so you didn't see that, right? So that's a problem. Okay.
That's my bad. But now it's really obvious. Now I've seen it, and everyone else probably saw it. So 1 out of 5 ain't bad.
It is a little bit strange. I will tell you that having the symbols associated with those things and then having to look over in the legend to figure out what those symbols mean, I did find that weird the first time I looked at the map.
Yep. Is there a better way to do it?
I mean, I figured it out pretty quick, but I'm not sure whether everyone would. I don't know.
Yep.
I couldn't think of a better way of doing it, or I would have raised that already. If I'm completely honest, I'm just like, how else would you do it?
Yeah, right.
But it is a little bit weird. The biggest annoying thing for me is, I know you've got your your numbers in your database and whatever, and you've put them in numerical sequence. But if you're actually just trying to find something, they're not in alphabetical order. If you know that there's a particular place or something and you're trying to find it in the list, it just seems like it's a random order that doesn't actually have any meaning other than the fact that they're numbered sequentially. And to me, I'm like, oh, could we do that better? Or at least, you know, we've got these little symbols, whether it's business, commercial, or open space, or private property restricted. Could we group those symbols together so that it would make more sense? Or yeah, I'm just trying to sort of make a bit of sense. And if the only reason why they're in that order is because they're numbered sequentially in the database, is that really a good enough reason to have it in that order?
Yeah, so
well, I suppose it's that you're looking at the map and you're seeing a number, and then you can refer back to the key to see what it is. So,
well, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, obviously, if you're looking at the map and the biggest thing is the number, and you need to find the number in the list, well, the numerical order is obviously the most important thing. But then, can we change the database to group them together better within the numbering system so that the numbers are still okay, but maybe they're ordered a bit more by
yeah, but I don't, but think about that for a second.
But then it gets really complicated.
Exactly. Because people are popping up all the time and say, oh, did you remember old Fred's place over there? And it's right in the middle of my 1, 2, 3, but now it's 128, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and obviously you've got the map from this version to next version. And if all of a sudden they're changing number, you'll create confusion. And they're obviously numbered from, you know, sort of left to right-ish.
ish, that's right. No, I couldn't think of anything to do on that either, Gary, because of these exact issues. But it has to, in my mind, it has to be, you have to give primacy to the spatial side of it. So it is a map for people on the ground at a place, and they can look at the number and look over there.
Yeah, and we've made the numbers the most important thing by putting them in the map, and the key, they are the link. Right. And
that's
say, and that's why I didn't suggest any changes to that off the bat, because I thought, well, there's probably not much that we can do about the key to improve it. It just needs to, it is what it is.
Visually, it bothers me that I'm not sure the key needs the shading. That might be distracting from a visual point of view, and there's no connection between the colors that are used in the shading and the legend, which explains, you know, so that maybe the legend should be kind of visually bolted on in quite an obvious way to the feature list.
Well, that was what I was just about to say, actually.
Great.
In the past, I've actually used so you just take lines from the key down to the legend, and then like sort of 3-dimensionally pop out the legend.
Yeah.
Right.
So with a bit of shading to make it pop out, so that you're seeing that that's the key, and then the legend is linked to that key, and it's jumping out at you.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Boom. That'd be a nice, elegant way of just really making it clear to the viewer, to the user, what's going on.
Yeah, if you have a visual example of that, Monday, it'd be great to see that, just to really get.
Okay.
Visual.
No worries. And I was just thinking about your little bird symbols. I mean, you know, they're ornithologists, so maybe a set of binoculars, and that's an easy little icon, and it's little binoculars might be better than the bird.
Yeah, that's good lateral thinking. Yeah.
That's actually a pretty good idea.
A big zoom lens, you know, like.
I mean, people, you know, you see binoculars. I mean, you think of road signs and stuff, you know, viewpoint, or but it's bird watching. So
yeah,
I bird watch, and binoculars would be what I would associate with bird watching. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Little binoculars would be a good symbol. Yep.
Great idea. Okay.
You could put a tiny little brown bird icon in the lens of your binoculars.
That's a good detail. I'll put that just for you. That'll be a little Easter egg in there. All right. Very good. Did you get the sense that there was excellent walking tracks in this area?
I wanted to comment earlier on the walking tracks. Yes, that's what I was looking at, and I thought it was easy to find the walking tracks.
Good.
Yeah, I looked in the legend and I was like, oh yes, walking trails, that's what I want.
Can I make a little comment about that too?
Yes, please.
The walking tracks, the dots are great, but if they were actually little tiny feet.
Oh yes, right.
It would actually be really, because sometimes dots can be all sorts of other things, but if you've got little feet going one after another, then it's very obviously walking track.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That
I like that.
It'd be cute, yes. We'll have to see what we can do with that scale. On the screen, of course, it's absolutely tiny, but printed, it's not quite so small, so it might work out well.
Yeah, my only other comment was with your icon for the toilets. It's a little bit underperforming because it's actually one of the more important things.
Yes, good.
I travel with 4 children, and I tell you what, finding a toilet and just having that pop out just a bit more than what it does at the moment. It's probably worthwhile, and you don't need a lot more real estate to do that. You just
Yeah.
What about using the icon, like just the little stick man and stick lady that stand next together, the toilet icon that you see on a lot of these sorts of maps?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I wonder if that's like pretty obvious.
Yeah,
it might be controversial.
True.
Not at all. It's a standard symbol.
You're a bit old-fashioned there, Gary. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, whether you choose to change the symbol up or whether you use the same one and make it pop out a bit more, I mean, I'm not necessarily too fussed either way, but I think they just need to be more, make a bit more of that.
Yep, good. I like that. Cool.
Whatever you do.
And your picnic seating, I can't actually see. I'm trying to see. It's a brown circle. What's the symbol inside? Is it actually a picnic table?
Oh, that's a good question. I forget what that is now.
It is, yeah. I could just see it, but I have it on a really big screen. Then.
If you had more of a prominent picnic table in there, it might be nice.
Yeah, at the moment it's kind of a yellow blob. If it was more, if you didn't have the circle around it, you would probably actually identify the picnic table shape quicker without the circle around it when it's on its own.
The only trouble is it could then blend in with so many of the other just black and white sketches. So it's actually good to have a little bit of colour to differentiate it.
Yeah, I mean, have a little bit of or whether it's just having a bit more contrast in the colour between this background circle and the picnic table. It's the picnic table shape that you want instantly recognisable, not the yellow circle.
Yeah, that's good. Although it is mustard yellow. See, that's the connection. So.
Very good.
I have a question about the legend and private property / restricted with a cross. Does that mean that you can't go there? It's kind of like, look at all these really cool places, but you can't go there.
Yeah, well, that's the point in a way, is because it is related to the history of the area. So people do want to know, where was that pub? Back then, where did that happen? Where was that person, et cetera, et cetera. So the stories are located in the landscape. Some of them are accessible, some of them aren't. But that's still telling the story of the area. So,
Maybe like, I was just trying to think of another creative word, but I'm failing to come up with one in a second. Other than like restricted, something that sort of represents that culturally significant heritage background. Anyway, I'll think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's restricted in the sense private. So why wouldn't it just be private property? Oh, so some are like public reserves, but I mean they're not public reserves, but like what's some good
Historical site, no, no longer accessible historical site.
You could just say, restricted access, because that's what you're saying. It's restricted access, but then
for some reason.
Yeah, the reasons are different, and not all of them are historical sites restricted
right.
access. You got Brooklyn Station in there. It's
Yep.
not quite the same reason as the sawmill workers' cottages, or
Yeah, that's right.
The cemetery.
Yeah.
Place of interest, not accessible or something.
I mean, I don't know, unless you wanted to separate out the historical sites from the things that are just restricted for other reasons. And
no, don't want any more. Fewer symbols.
Yeah. Oh, look. I mean, in reading it, I didn't find that particularly hard to interpret.
Okay.
So even if you don't necessarily change the words, I got the idea pretty quick.
Cool.
From private property / restricted as to what it's about.
Yep.
It's a lovely map.
Thank you. This might be a bit nitpicking, but I couldn't make up my mind about how to deal with the edges of areas that are shaded, or I'm sorry, the edges of areas that are like like some are features. If you see on the far left, number 23 has got a dot around it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a specific site of something. So I felt like I put the edge, the dots around it because it's a site. But then something like number 4 just dropped down to the south of that. That's an oval, or a recreation oval. Why doesn't it have a dot on the outside? And then if you keep dropping down to the number 12, that Babbler Hill area, it's got a faded edge on it. So now we've got 3 different visual treatments for those kind of irregular shapes, or those feature areas. And that to me starts to bug me a bit. I don't understand why I've got 3 different edges. Any thoughts on that for people? Does it bother anybody else? Or
You could, rather than having different edges, you could just have them different color coded. They've got different meanings.
It didn't bother me. It doesn't, even now after you've pointed it out, it still doesn't really bother me very much.
Still doesn't bother you, okay.
I don't have any particular ideas as to what you could do to make it look better either. So
yeah, I'd probably just not use the dotted edge, but just have a different color.
Yeah, the green kind of suggests that it's they're all a natural site, but maybe if it was a slightly different shade, so it didn't blend so much in with the natural sites.
Yeah, it is a grayer green, but yeah, you can see how you can make it look natural. Yeah.
Go purple or something. Be outrageous.
Yeah. Well, it's visually stimulating enough.
I must say I'm not a huge fan of dotted edges. So
nor me.
All right.
If it is clearly an edge, then probably not making it dotted is an idea. Use color or width to be the factors that alter it, rather than being dashed or dotted.
Yeah, cool. All right, good.
I always think, sort of keeping things as simple and clean as possible.
Yes, indeed. That's right.
Get your message out much better.
Yeah.
All right. Look, that's been fabulous feedback from me.
I was going to say, I like that you've used the different shades of blue to define the major creek versus the minor creek lines as well. I thought that was quite good.
Yeah,
thanks for that. That's important.
Yeah, that's
to me,
effective.
To keep with those watercolors. Yep. Yeah.
there's like two dots that run straight through the middle of it. Am I?
Yeah.
Looks like a
ask.
drive track, but it's not.
This,
Is it a
this one
railway?
here?
Yeah.
That one? That is a railway.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's
Not in your
it's-
legend.
Oh, we should put a train
Yeah.
icon on there.
Yeah, it's it's a feature. So it's a ghost train, right? There's no tracks there. It's the alignment. The alignment is still there. So when you go through the bush, there's this alignment.
So it's like an old earth bank.
Yeah, that's right. And every now and then there's a culvert. There's a culvert there, and there's a culvert there. There's a few culverts back over in here.
That's
But
actually
it's a ghost track.
that's the correct symbol for that sort of feature.
Yeah.
Is it labeled or in the key?
Yeah,
Can't
I'm just
tell.
trying to find out where that 6, that will be the
Okay.
railway line dismantled. Yep. But that's not
Okay.
very obvious, is it?
Yeah, it's such a long feature that you can't.
Yeah.
And
got another
cutting right
6 up
through the
here.
center of the map.
Yeah. See, there's another
Yeah.
6 there. But
Maybe
what would you do differently?
Well, could you put it in the legend?
Over here? Yeah. Yeah, why not? Sure.
I don't know. It's just because it's such an eye-catching feature on the
Yeah.
map. It's cutting straight through the center of it, and it's
Yeah,
quite
good
long.
idea.
If you're going to
Yeah,
put it in the
that's-
legend, you could note it as either historic rail or
Yep.
if it's still rail reserve, you could
Yeah.
list it as rail reserve. I wouldn't
Yep.
put it as railway for obvious reasons because it's
Yeah.
not a railway, or at
Yep.
least not anymore. But yeah,
Okay.
I would support putting that in the legend as a good move.
Yeah, good idea.
You could also
Does
have it
anybody-
labelled as part of old railway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just say
Or a
old
more
railway.
obvious label. Yeah.
You could even put a rail line dismantled, just like your number 6, if you wanted to.
Yep. Has anybody noticed there's 2 things that how about this one here? Do you see that line?
Oh yeah,
Is that too subtle? It's
Yes.
pretty subtle, isn't it?
it is.
Okay.
What is it?
It's a spur line off the railway.
Oh,
So it's a minor spur line that they brought the railway off. That came up to the old sawmill.
Yeah,
Too subtle?
it may as well not be there.
May as well not be there. Okay. And what's the proper treatment? Can I do better with the Great Dividing Range? Since that is such a big thing.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well,
Over
you
here.
know how I was talking about having those little hats for the mountainous
Yeah, yeah.
areas? Well, if you've got a line of them, it shows a range.
Yeah, that's right.
And you could have the Great Dividing Range along with these a line of hats that shows where
Yep.
where the Great Dividing Range sort of goes.
Yep.
You wouldn't want to make the hats too poppy outy on the map. They just sort of need to fade into the background a little bit, but it'll give that context.
Yeah, good. Okay. Right.
Who else has got
Okay.
are there any more comments? I'm just looking at my watch going, oh, well, you know, we were thinking of sort of finishing around 6-ish, but then keeping on having our discussions or whatever. So it's not like we have to stop talking. I mean, there might be some people that need to go soon. I don't know. But,
I actually need to go next door to my poor old host, which I bailed off on today. So I have to be an apology in a moment. But
that is quite fine. But if anyone has any last comments or questions for John, maybe we'll do that now. And then if anyone does want to just keep chatting or talking about whatever afterwards, well, we can do that too.
Are there any pubs in this area? I'm just thinking as a tourist, you know, might want to know where the local watering hole is.
yeah, look, that's oh wait, I'm not sharing a screen anymore. Alt tab. Here,
Very
share
point.
screen.
Good
Yeah.
It's
point.
number
You don't want to miss those.
37.
Oh, thank you.
That's right.
It's relatively prominent.
Yeah, that's right. Right in the middle of town. That guy. And he advertises.
It is the biggest building. Yeah, you're right.
That's right.
The hall is the second biggest, so that's good too.
Can I just make a point that you've got these lovely photographs around the outside, and where a photograph actually corresponds to a place on the map, I think the number should be on the photo.
Yeah.
Yes. Good
Oh,
idea.
yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
All right. Good.
You guys are legends. Oh, no, sorry. No pun intended.
Stuck in the corner of a map. Huh?
Legendary discussion.
No, that's great. I made some good notes here, Gary. If you send me a link to the recording, that'd be great as well. I really appreciate your time, everybody. And I'll be really, really happy to send you a pre-proof edition of the next version. And maybe we can have another quick discussion again.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. See, the only person who had homework was Desiree. You've got to come up to the hillshade, I think. So I think that was your idea. So.
Oh, we had the little hats in the end, the icons.
Well, I had to one up me.
I still like the hillshade, frankly. I wasn't going to say anything to you, Gary, but I think the hillshades are a winner.
Well,
I like the hill shading, I must admit.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's a nice solution, but it's easier solution than the hillshade probably.
Yeah. Well, see, we can use the little hats for the dividing range, so we'll get both solutions in place.
There you go.
All right.
We can put hill shading on the hats.
Oh, that's it. I'm done. Right. Okay.
Thanks, John. That was
All
fun.
right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thank you.
heaps.
Great to talk to
right.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Okay. See you, John.
I'm
Yeah,
out.
but
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, we all are. Okay. Bye.
Oh, everyone's leaving.
I've got to work out how to leave.
There should be a red button somewhere.
All right. Catch you later.
Bye.
Good.
Alrighty. I like this format. I think this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like even if like I don't know, geez, I'm just thinking now about all the maps that I make that I wouldn't mind getting some feedback on now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice little workshop if like, you know, if we're really stuck for presenters.
Yeah.
Doing something like this is fun.
I agree. I might see what I can do about capturing this material that I got from this Eurissa presentation from 7 years ago. It's got some really good cartographic information in here for making maps. There's some real gold in terms of some of the map making principles.
Are these just your handwritten notes, or did you? Are these?
No, it's the proper notes from the workshop. There's 2 slides per page, 150 pages.
Wow.
Plus some handouts as well. There's a lot to it. I think it might have even been my dad found it in a box and just gave it to me a few weeks ago. And then we've got this lovely MapChat, and I'm like, oh, perfect.
And it is perfect. Gosh, so you got a bit of light reading there, do you? Going to go back through the cartography notes?
Well, I did read through a fair bit of it. Well, yeah, I've been reading it a bit this afternoon, just for today's session, and yeah, it's got all sorts of tips. It's got I don't know how many pages on tips about labeling and color and all sorts. And
color is the biggest thing for me, is knowing the right colors to put on an imagery background, trying to get them to work and stand out in certain ways. Like there's so many different color schemes that we use to show different things that sometimes it just looks like a bit psychedelic for what we're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, it goes through colour
Yeah.
models, looking at colour spaces, how to pick a palette, that sort of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So it's a pretty comprehensive sort of a little document that I got here.
Yeah, I think there was I think Esri was doing like a short, you do it over once a week. They do these for 5 weeks. It's a short course on cartography.
Oh, yeah.
I've been meaning to sign up for that for ages, but you know, doing it in your own time, it's like, oh, where do I fit that in?
Yeah, absolutely.
But something I've been meaning to do for ages. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome.
Right.
I think it might be about time then. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we go?
Did anyone say they're going to the FOSS4G hub meeting on Monday? I don't think anyone has sort of put their hand up for that, the next one.
That's this coming Monday, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to try and attend that, and I probably can, so I should be okay for that, I reckon.
Alrighty, cool. Perfect.
On the Monday. See how I go. They listed Cairns as one of their hub venues in their recent promotional email, whatever, that came out that I saw. So we're on the list at the very least. But I think it's only 2 hours of content that they provide, and if we want to make more of a day of it, then we have to find our own sort of local presenters and things to make a bigger event out of it. And so we've got to figure out whether we just want 2 hours of blah blah, or whether we want to make a bigger event out of it.
I'm always going to be in favour of a bigger event, but organisation, you know.
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of finding a couple of people to present, which isn't necessarily going to be that
it would
hard.
be in person.
I'm sure Alistair or George would jump in if we can't find anyone else to at least bring something. But then it's a matter of if we're going to make more of an event of it, but it's only 2 hours of whatever regional content, and